You know, when we think about history, our minds usually go straight to the big stuff, right? Huge battles, famous kings, massive empires. But what if I told you the real story, the one that actually changes the world, happens in the shadows? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on these unseen levers, the secret weapons, the hidden advantages that have quietly shaped our entire world.
So let me ask you, what do you think is history's ultimate weapon? Is it the sword, the cannon, an atom bomb? Well, the answer might not be what you think. It's often something you can't even see, and it's way, way more powerful.
Okay, let's take the Byzantine Empire. The Western Roman Empire was crumbling, just falling apart, but these guys held on for another 1,000 years. How? Well, they had a little something called Greek fire, a clandestine technology, a weapon so devastating we still don't know the exact formula today. That was their secret sauce, their unseen lever for pure survival.
But you know, it's not always some secret goo you can light on fire. Sometimes the real weapon is just knowing something your enemy doesn't. The Mongols, they had the Yam network. Think of it like an ancient, horse-powered internet stretching across Asia. And what about a tiny kingdom like Prussia, totally surrounded by giants? For them, intelligence was literally life or death. They figured out how to turn simple paper and ink into a weapon.
And then there's the most dangerous weapon of all, the one you never see coming: commerce. Yeah, money. The East India Company, for example, they started out just wanting to trade spices, but they ended up with their own armies and a full-blown empire. They literally turned profit into political power, and, well, that changed everything.
So, all of these are what we're talking about, these unseen levers, power that doesn't work on the open battlefield, but in the shadows. But it kind of begs the question, right? Where do these brilliant, history-altering ideas even come from? The answer is probably not what you're expecting.
You'd think these game-changing moves are born from strength, from confidence, but nope, you'd be wrong. They almost always come from pure desperation. When your back is completely against the wall, you don't really have a choice, do you? You innovate, or you disappear.
I mean, just look at the pattern here. You've got Byzantium desperately trying to hold on after Rome collapsed. You've got Prussia, this tiny little nation swimming in a sea of massive empires. And then there's England, just an underdog at the time, trying to get a tiny piece of the global spice trade. They were all desperate, and that's exactly what made them so clever and so dangerous.
It's simple, really. When you can't win the game playing by the existing rules, what do? You change the rules. Desperation isn't just a motivator, it forces you to completely reinvent what power even means. And this is what leads to the masterpiece pivot. That amazing moment when the underdog suddenly unleashes their secret weapon, and just like that, the course of history is changed forever.
I mean, look at this. This is the old way versus the new way. On one side, you have brute force, bigger armies, steel weapons. On the other, you have something way more subtle: information, economic pressure, secret formulas. It's not just a new tactic, it's a completely different game. And we see these pivots happen over and over again. The Mongols and their lightning-fast messaging system. Venice, the absolute masters of financial warfare, using banking to control empires from the shadows. Even Emperor Ashoka, who realized he could unite a subcontinent with a powerful idea, a moral ideology where armies had failed. And of course, the East India Company, who proved that a corporate ledger can be way deadlier than a sword. The Battle of Plassey in 1757 is just the perfect case study. The East India Company didn't show up and win with superior force. Oh no, they won with secrets and gold. They literally bought off their enemy's key commanders before the battle even started. It was a hostile corporate takeover, but for an entire kingdom.
So how'd they do it? How did they all pull this off? Well, it wasn't just random luck. Turns out, there's a kind of formula to it. A 3-step playbook for winning from the shadows.
It goes like this. First, you get information dominance. You have to know what your opponent is going to do before they do it. Step 2, you apply pressure. Not with an army, but covertly. Squeeze them financially, politically. You find their weakest point, and you press down hard. And then finally, when they're off balance, that's when you strike with your unseen advantage.
And believe me, this isn't some one-off trick. Just look at this. The Mongols had their Yam network for info, used psychological warfare for pressure, and then exploited it all with insane speed. The East India Company? They had spies, they choked off their target's economy, and then moved in with their private armies. And Venice, the CIA of the Middle Ages. They used intelligence networks, banking power, and total trade manipulation. It's the same playbook, just with different players. But here's the inevitable twist in the story. Every empire that rises eventually falls, and so often, the very thing that made them powerful becomes their undoing. Their secret weapon turns into their fatal flaw.
You know, history has a very, very long memory, and it absolutely does not forgive arrogance or overreach. Once you get to the top, you become the target, and all that success can make you blind to the next underdog with the next unseen lever who's about to change the game all over again.
Just look at the East India Company's trajectory, from a small trading firm in 1600 to the absolute height of its power in 1757. But then came the fatal mistake. 100 years later, their own brutal tactics ignited a massive rebellion that brought the whole corrupt enterprise crashing down. The Shadow Empire just dissolved.
And this story just repeats itself again and again. The Spanish Empire literally drowned in the silver that was supposed to make it invincible. The Ottomans got left in the dust by a technology gap they couldn't close. Even Byzantium's legendary Greek fire couldn't save it in the end. And the Aztecs? Their rigid social structure made them brittle, unable to adapt when a new threat arrived.
Okay, so what's the point of this history lesson? Why does it matter? Because the game is still being played. Right now. The battlefield looks different, for sure, but the unseen levers, they are more powerful than they have ever been, and they are all around us.
So here's the bottom line. The enduring lesson from all of this. The ultimate battle, then and now, isn't for land or for gold. It's for control over the flow of information. That's the real prize.
Today's unseen levers aren't secret formulas kept in a vault. They're forged from data. They're written in code. They are the algorithms and the vast, invisible economic networks that connect every single thing and every single one of us.
I mean, just think about it. We see it every day. Information warfare that can sway an election. Economic sanctions that can bring a nation to its knees without a single shot being fired. The quiet, immense power of controlling global supply chains. And of course, the incredible, almost scary power of data analysis and AI to predict and influence our behavior. This is the new battlefield.
And all of this brings us to one final, huge question. We can see the unseen levers of today pretty clearly. But what about tomorrow? History tells us there is always a new one being forged in secret, somewhere, right now, just waiting for its moment to pivot the world. So, what is it? And who's building it?